Can you imagine what we'll find?
Aliens hellbent on killing us?
That's the spirit, Bones. You make a good team.
I believe we do.
Hold on to something! Do it!
Star Trek Beyond.
You really want to head back out there?
Yes.
Hello, I'm the Universal Critic. I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. The key to any franchise's longevity is the ability to adapt, both to new opportunities and in the face of loss. The Star Trek franchise has had its fair share of both in recent years, and I think the latest film, Star Trek Beyond, reflects this quite well. Several years after the events of the previous films, the crew of the Starship Enterprise, led once again by Chris Pine's Kirk, Zachary Quinto's Spock, Carl Urban's McCoy, and Simon Pegg's Scotty, are sent on a mission to explore a planet in uncharted nebula. They are soon attacked and overwhelmed by the forces of Krall, played by Idris Elba, and wind up stranded on the planet's surface. With no means of escape or communications, the crew team up with an alien warrior girl named Jayla, played by Sofia Boutella, to defeat Krall and stop his plans to destroy the Federation and plunge the galaxy into chaos. In the past, I've praised both the 2009 reboot and its 2013 sequel considerably, but I've come to revise my opinions somewhat in the years after. I still enjoy the first film quite a lot, but the second one is not as strong as I first thought it was. It just feels like it tries to retread the storyline from Wrath of Khan, but without any of the character history to back it up. It's a decent flick in its own right, but the rehash of old ideas sours the experience for me. After all, Star Trek is about exploration and innovation, people pushing further and further off into a seemingly infinite frontier. A series like that should build off of and expand on the past, but not simply try to do the same thing over again. Thankfully, Beyond, for all its flaws, embraces that idea more so than either of its predecessors. The film's main conflict is built around making contact with a new alien race, an enemy that is utterly mysterious and must be studied before it can be overcome. We have the crew contemplating their lives, the influences of their past, and the choices they have in determining their own futures. We have a villain who, without giving too much away, has motivations that are fueled by the consequences of Starfleet's actions. I'm not saying these elements are executed perfectly, because they're not, but they are still admirable and are completely at home in the Star Trek universe. The biggest hindrance to all of these elements, at least in the first half of the movie, is the pacing. For the first hour or so, it just feels like the movie is on fast forward. Things are set up so rapidly amidst a swirl of admittedly impressive action that it can be a little hard to digest it all. In the second half, things, thankfully, slow down, and everything that was established before is given time to be resolved, but that doesn't quite make up for the rushed setup. The setting and enemy make for a visceral threat. Aggression from a foe that you know nothing about is legitimately intimidating, and being stranded in a foreign environment is equally treacherous. The movie does a solid job of exploring these obstacles, giving the alien ships fairly unique designs and unusual methods of maneuvering, which makes them seem truly alien. The same goes for the planet, albeit less so, as it's a fairly Earth-like environment with some cool-looking plants and animals thrown in. Maybe I've been spoiled by the likes of Avatar and Star Wars, but I just think other worlds should look a little bit, alien, or at least more alien than that. The visuals are saved, though, by the presence of the space station Yorktown, which has a simply fantastic futuristic design. A sort of spherical city with inverted gravity, which I found that place far more interesting than the planet itself, if only the movie was entirely set on there, but it's not. The character work is one of the strongest elements of this film, as it manages to capture both a great deal of sadness and hope. In the past 2 years, we have sadly lost 2 Star Trek alums, and that theme of loss and regret is well depicted in this film. At the start of the movie, Kirk is becoming disenchanted with the routine of commanding a ship and wonders if he can ever live up to his father's legacy and honor. Spock is faced with loss, namely the destruction of his homeworld in the first film and the recent death of the future Spock. I won't spoil the outcomes of these stories, but it is easily the most human and touching thing that the new movies have done, especially when it comes to Spock. The villain is entertaining in his own way, no doubt due to Idris Elba's always impeccable performance, though I can't help but feel the execution of this character is a bit rushed. The explanation for his actions, while it does have some cool, albeit raw, ideas about the nature of war and the consequences of the exploration which are at the core of Starfleet, it's only given really a few minutes of development. I think I like the villain the most out of the three we've been given in this new trilogy, but that's mostly for what he represents over what he actually is or what he actually does. The action scenes are perfectly serviceable, though I wouldn't exactly call them anything particularly groundbreaking. The new character J-Lo was pretty fun, a sort of mix of brash engineer and fun-loving punk rocker. The humor was a bit broad at times, but I'd be lying if I said that there aren't a good deal of laughs to be had in this movie. Overall, I give Star Trek Beyond a low big screen rating. It isn't quite the visceral dose of energy that was the 2009 reboot, but it takes the promising ideas of Into Darkness and expands on them, albeit not to their full potential. And it makes for a smart and entertaining summer blockbuster and an overall good sign for the future of this franchise. I'm the Universal Critic. I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. Goodbye.